My heart hurts. My lungs burn and my belly keeps getting fuller and fuller of tequila. Derek thought to himself, miserable. The bar around him was getting more and more blurry, but his mind felt clearer than ever. Millie's face in his mind felt clearer than ever. She was like a curse he couldn't escape. "Isn't this Derek?" A guy's voice blurted out nearby. Derek thought he sounded stupid. Derek looked up at the source of the voice. It was a group of guys from his old school, Paradigm High. Derek rolled his eyes and looked back into his glass, sucking down the rest of the tequila from the glass. "Why are you drinking alone?" A guy with bleach blonde hair said as he sat on the bar stool next to Derek. "What's wrong?" the first guy teased. "Are you unhappy because you're at Marshall now with all the snobs?" "If you don't like it, just come back," the blonde said. "Why would you stay there with those nerds? Derek, you don't even know." He turned to Derek emphatically. "Since you left, so many things have happened at Paradigm." "Get lost," Derek said coldly, still not looking at any of them. He didn't want to talk to anyone right now. He just wanted to drink all of the tequila in this bar. He didn't want to go home. He didn't want to see his father. He didn't want to see anyone who would make him think of Millie. But it seemed like that was everyone. "Derek, why are you being so cruel to us, man? That's a messed up thing to say." One of the guys said, "We've only ever been nice to you." "Yeah, you keep attacking us just because of some girl at Marshall High," the blonde attested. It was clear that they had a lot of resentment towards Derek. Now that Derek had transferred to Marshall, it seemed like he'd climbed into a different world from them. A better one. They were trying to forget their past grudges to talk to Derek in a friendly way in this bar. But despite that, Derek was completely ignoring them like they weren't worth his time. "Who the hell does he think he is, man?" One of the guys muttered. "What is this?" "I said, get lost," Derek repeated with just as much ice edging his voice. "Go to hell." The blonde stood up, his bar stool falling aside and grabbing Derek's collar, pulling him to his feet. "Derek, who the hell do you think you are? What the hell are you hanging on to all this for?" Derek's world spun as he was pulled from his seat. His head hurt, and he couldn't focus, but he clenched his fist and swung at the person holding his collar, connecting with the temple. "I told you to get lost," he shouted. "Why don't you understand?" The other boys from Paradigm swore, infuriated. They all rushed Derek at once, wanting to hit him, except for one boy. He stood back, shaking his head and crossing his arms. He watched as Derek knocked each of the guys unconscious, back on the floor around him. Derek was gasping for breath. He felt like he was superhumanly strong. But now that all of his enemies were on the floor around him, he felt much more drunk than he was before. His arms trembling, he staggered toward the door. He didn't see that the first guy who had grabbed Derek's collar struggled to his feet. He grabbed a liquor bottle from behind the bar and smashed it on the floor. With a crash, the bottle shattered, and the boy held a weapon of thick, sharp glass. "Derek Brown," he yelled. "Go to hell!" He charged Derek's back before Derek could fully turn around. He managed to dodge slightly, avoiding the thick shards sinking into his back, but it sliced a jagged path through his upper arm. Derek yelled in pain. He swung his leg and kicked the guy over. He fell onto the ground, and Derek kicked him once more. He moaned, unable to get up. Derek glanced at the one person who stood back from the other Paradigm boys and was just watching with his arms crossed. His arm dripped blood, and his head was full of tequila and rage, so he walked outside unsteadily. The entire bar was a disaster. It looked like a tornado had swept through, knocking everything over and leaving Paradigm boys in its wake. A bartender turned to Melly from where they were both hiding in the back kitchen. They peeked out, taking in the whole scene. "What do we do?" the other bartender said. "What if one of those guys died?" She called out to the bar. "Are you dead?" She watched as all the guys on the ground seemed to groan in response. "Okay, well, I still don't look forward to checking on them and making sure." "What was that guy's problem?" Millie sighed. I think he has a lot of problems, but they attacked him first. She frowned, turning to the bartender. I'm going to head out. If the boss asks, tell him it's my birthday, a migraine, or something embarrassing so he doesn't question it. You can say I got food poisoning and had to run home, whatever you want. Millie grabbed her things out of a locker in the back room and hurried out toward the door, stepping around the moaning Paradigm students. Millie, where are you actually going, though? The bartender shouted to her, but Millie just continued on her way out the door. She sighed. Do I call the police or something? The boy who had sat back and watched the melee stood still with his arms crossed, shaking his head. What are you all doing attacking Derek Brown? You had to know none of you could beat him. After saying that, he also turned and walked out of the bar. The moment Millie ran out of the bar, hoping to spot Derek staggering away, it seemed like he'd already disappeared into the city. Damn it, she muttered to herself. How are you walking so fast right now? Millie frowned, then noticed something on the ground. Drops of blood splattered on the ground, leading her away from the bar. She remembered that Derek's arm had a deep gash when he left. She took a deep breath and followed the trail of blood. She walked along the sidewalk until the drops of blood led her to an alleyway. She found Derek sitting on the ground behind a dumpster against the brick building. His arm was soaked with blood. How's it going? Derek asked woozily, his eyes unfocused. Great to see you. Take a seat. Millie leaned forward and pulled him to his feet by his good arm. I'm not going to watch you bleed out in an alley. She hoisted his arm up over her shoulders behind her head. Millie supported Derek's crisscrossing steps as she helped him toward her apartment. The last obstacle was a flight of stairs, but step by step, they climbed up to her front door. You're really strong, Derek mumbled. You're really heavy, she replied. Her bare studio apartment featured one small sagging bed. She heaved him onto it, and he sat at last, sighing. She hurried to her kitchen, breathing heavily. She filled a cup of water and drank it. Then she found an old towel and a first aid kit. His arm had stopped bleeding so profusely, but she laid out the towel underneath it. She cut his sleeve off with a pair of scissors. She carefully cleaned his arm and wound, then applied disinfectant. He groaned softly. You're lucky this wound isn't actually that deep. You probably bled so much because you're so drunk, she muttered, not expecting him to be really listening. If this were any bigger, I'd have to send you to the hospital. He sucked air through his teeth in a hiss of pain. Oof, that hurts. Of course it does, tough guy. She rolled her eyes. Your bed is so uncomfortable, he moaned. She narrowed her eyes at him, incredulous. Yeah, well, I don't have the same kind of parents that must have bought you this designer t-shirt we just ruined. He frowned, only able to think about the throbbing in his arm and temples. His brain felt like it was going to explode shortly after his eyeballs. His whole body was in pain, but the most painful thing of all was still his heart. His mind was a staticky, chaotic-y landscape of anger and pain, but he seemed to keep replaying the scene he saw of Cameron kissing Millie's forehead, and the smile on her face, the physical world of intense physical pain, and his mental world of emotional turmoil made him feel unsure if he could actually bear it after all. Oh no, Millie said, squinting at Derek's wound. This part is really inflamed already. That's so fast. She looked up at him, alarmed. Derek, this isn't good. Could she even save him? What else can I do? That wound looks really bad, Millie thought. After quickly bandaging the wound, Millie turned from Derek to look for anti-inflammatory medicine. Once she had it in hand, she read the instructions and filled a glass with water. She returned to Derek's side and gritted her teeth as she used most of her strength to heave him upright. He was dead weight and larger than her, but she managed it anyway. Open your mouth, she said firmly, hoping he could hear her. Derek groaned back at Millie. Millie shook Derek gently. Derek's eyes were still closed, but his mouth finally opened, and she placed the medicine on his tongue. She held the glass of water to his lips, and he swallowed in a daze. As soon as he got it down, he fell back again unconscious. The phrase passed out drunk is really not an exaggeration. Melly thought, I guess the thing to do now is let him sleep. Melly stretched and rolled her shoulders, making sure everything was okay after hauling Derek's heavily drunk self around. She was very tired from the night's dramatic events. After she felt a little more relaxed, Melly squatted down until she was level with Derek and stared at his slack face for some time. You saved me and then disappeared. You're not the most handsome guy I've ever seen, but there's something about you. It's hard not to think about. Dangerous, but kind at the same time. You do the right thing when it matters most. Melly's memories of when she met Derek floated back to her. She recalled how he had helped her. Melly was not used to anyone showing her kindness throughout her life, so that instance stuck with her. She thought about how she dropped out of high school, and she struggled to support herself at such a young age. Life had been one hardship after another, and she had to handle it all on her own. Those experiences hardened her significantly. She was often anxious and angry, but that was part of her life, and she accepted it. There was no one to look for her but herself. Melly reflected on how she'd even come to work at the bar in the first place, and she was flooded with bitterness. Before that job, she had an entry-level job at a store. The old manager saw that she was young and harassed her relentlessly. And then that jerk's wife took it out on me instead of her gross husband, Melly thought bitterly. On top of that, he punished me by reducing my salary. I worked so hard for months and earned practically nothing, and that bastard still came up with that nonsense saying I owed the store $300. For renting my employee uniform, it was outrageous. Melly laughed darkly, thinking about how naive she had been. The employee uniform rental fees? What a joke, she thought and shook her head. Of course, she could not afford to pay that insane fee, so she finally left that store. Then she started bartending. It was her only option. Even when the bar was busy and she worked long hours, the owner of the bar would only pay her a flat daily rate. Sometimes he would feel bad and give her a bottle of something nice to take home during the holidays, but that was it. Every day she worked at the bar, Melly dreamed of a life where anything could be just a little easier, a little better. If I could just wear a skirt to work that covers my butt, she would think and roll her eyes. Her more sincere wish was that she could go back to school. She would fantasize about it whenever customers harassed her, and while she tuned out the gross, leering smiles on their faces. Derek was the first time anyone bothered to help me like I was a real person, she recalled. And he didn't even ask for anything in return. He just left. Derek probably didn't think twice about it, but it really touched my heart that he did that, and I'll never forget it. Melly tilted her head as she stared at Derek's sleeping face. She gently stretched out her finger and traced the edge of his jaw, and he didn't move at all. What makes you different than every other guy who comes into the bar? She asked quietly. She continued watching his sleeping face. Things don't happen like in romance novels. She scoffed at herself, but she could not stop staring. She desperately wanted to know everything about him. She thought he was a school dropout like her, but today she overheard that he had transferred to Marshall High. If he's going to Marshall High, then he must be pretty smart. Melly was fond of smart people. Smart people don't get taken advantage of or pushed around. They succeed and thrive, not like me. The more Melly looked at Derek and thought of what she knew about him so far, the more she liked him. For a fleeting moment, she thought she might let herself enjoy the happy, romantic feelings that people in movies got to enjoy, even if it was ridiculous. She carefully reached out and softly placed her hand on Derek's hand. It was much larger than hers, and warmer too. She imagined being able to hold his hand the way couples might, and that thought made her happy. Suddenly, Derek grabbed her hand, even though his eyes were still closed. He appeared to not be aware of where he was, and was still mostly unconscious. Panic flooded through Melly as she was reminded of every other time a man had suddenly grabbed and pulled at her. She braced herself for a fight, and she tried to pull her hand away. But Derek began to mumble, and it distracted her. "Millie, I'm sorry," Derek mumbled incoherently. To Millie's ears, Millie sounded like Millie. Hearing Derek say her name made her pause, and she stayed very still, listening for more. "Millie, please, forgive me. I just want to be there for you," Derek mumbled groggily. "Oh," Millie gasped. She had never heard these words from anyone before, and hearing them come from Derek was especially stunning. Her heart swelled with a feeling she had never felt before. She wanted to be able to comfort him through whatever was troubling him. She carefully crawled into the bed beside Derek and rested her arm across his chest. Millie liked the feeling of being so close to him, and she felt safe doing anything like this for the first time. "It's okay," she whispered. She knew this was the right thing to do. As soon as he felt Millie's warmth against his side and the comforting weight of her arm across his chest, Derek immediately relaxed and fell back into a deep sleep. The next morning, Millie's eyes fluttered open first. She groggily glanced at Derek next to her and saw that he was still asleep. She slowly remembered the events of the previous night. She felt both calm and excited at the same time. "I can't believe how fast I'm falling for this guy," she thought to herself. It scared her, but she also felt warm and happy in her chest. Just then, Derek stirred and he opened his eyes. He blinked, trying to understand the scene around him. "Where am I?" he wondered. "How did I get here, and what is she doing here?" Derek felt the panic rise in him the more he could not remember what happened. His head pounded with the worst hangover he'd experienced in a while. Bits and pieces came to his memory in between the waves of throbbing in his head. "Millie, I'm sorry," he remembered saying. His eyes suddenly widened and he looked down at Millie, who smiled up at him. "Did something happen last night?" His worry grew. "I think we have all of our clothes on, at least." Millie watched Derek's confused face and her smile faded slightly. She could not read his expression. What is he thinking? Is he upset that I'm here? Derek shifted away from Millie, lifting her arm off of him. He sat up slowly and groaned. "What is her name again?" He racked his brain, trying to remember. He was embarrassed that he drew a blank until it finally popped into his head. "Millie," he remembered. "I'm the worst." He cringed. Millie sat beside Derek and suddenly felt very vulnerable. She hugged the blanket to her chest and carefully watched him as he rubbed his temples. Does he not know what happened? Was this a huge mistake? "Millie, right?" Derek said as he finally looked back at Millie. "Yeah." Millie nodded and her eyes lit up. She was so relieved that he remembered her after all. "I really drank too much last night," Derek said sheepishly and shook his head. "I'm a bartender, don't worry, I've seen worse." Millie shrugged, trying to laugh it off. Derek rubbed his eyes and ran his hand through his hair. He looked into Millie's eyes and sighed. "Did we do anything last night?" "No, nothing happened. Unless you count each of us falling asleep here," Millie answered, laughing a little. Derek exhaled in relief. "Okay, thank God." Millie's face fell. She had not expected for him to be quite that happy that nothing had happened between them. Apparently, he doesn't feel the way I feel. Of course, Millie thought bitterly. I don't know why I was expecting anything else. A cold expression came over her as she slid away from Derek. "I think it's time for you to go," Millie said icily. "Oh, all right then," Derek said confused. She seemed much happier a minute ago, he thought. He did not argue when he saw the cold expression on her face. He stood from the bed and gritted his teeth through another wave of pain that rang in his head. He sucked in air through his teeth and waited for it to subside. Then he wordlessly nodded to her one last time before leaving the small apartment. As soon as Derek walked out, Millie covered her face with her hands in frustration. She cursed herself for letting her hopes get away from her. I should never have let myself be vulnerable like that. You don't even know him, Millie. Why would you have wild fantasies about possibilities of any kind of future together? A guy like that who is a student at Marshall High isn't going to be interested in a sad little orphan barely getting by. He said my name when he was drunk and my guard fell completely down. How embarrassing. Millie shook her head. It's fine. I don't need anyone else, and it was stupid to forget that for a night. There's no point in feeling disappointment. I did this to myself. Suddenly, the sound of her neighbors fighting next door shattered the silence. What are you shouting so early in the morning for? The woman yelled. They cursed and screamed at each other. Screw you! Are you crazy? The man shrieked. Millie opened her mouth to shout at her neighbors to quiet down, but their loud argument continued. All you do is scream all day, and it's just never enough, the man shouted. Maybe if you stopped being such a waste of space. The woman yelled back. I'm the waste of space that's rich, the man bellowed. This is why we never have sex anymore. Keep telling yourself that, the woman snarled. As Millie listened to her neighbor's contemptuous shouting, her own frustration and disappointment faded. She smiled and chuckled to herself. She knew that this couple next door were married, but they weren't even in their 50s yet. Whether she wanted to know it or not, it sounded like these people were no longer intimate with each other anymore. I guess things could be much worse. Who wants to deal with that for the rest of your life? Millie shook her head. She pursed her lips and decided to let it all go. I've always been alone, and I'm better off that way. You can't get hurt if you never get close enough to let anyone hurt you, Millie reminded herself. Millie looked around her empty, run-down place. This is my life, and it's good enough, she thought resolutely. Millie got up and summoned the will to take a shower. She changed into fresh clothes and went to change the sheets on her bed. It'll be like none of it happened, Millie told herself. She took the sheets and put them in the ancient washing machine. The landlord had not replaced it in 15 years, no matter how much she asked. Millie had learned to carefully position a chair against the door of the machine in order to keep it from opening during a wash cycle and spewing clothes and water everywhere. As she watched the worthless machine start to shudder, she felt particularly gloomy about her situation. She sighed deeply. Don't you dare cry, she threatened herself. She shook off the feeling and turned back to the stripped bed. She started to pack up the mess of first aid supplies she'd used to treat Derek the night before. She felt a pang of sadness and concern as she picked up the leftover bandages. She still worried about the state of Derek's injuries. He looked terrible last night, Millie remembered. She hoped the medicine worked. Stop thinking about him, Millie scolded herself as she packed away any evidence of his being there. It was never a thing. You're being ridiculous. Millie turned and saw Derek's wallet sitting forgotten on the table. The tangible reminder of him made her angry. She walked to the table and picked up the wallet. A thick stack of bills was visible from the outside. So he's rich, too, of course. I never had a real chance. I don't care if you had $1 billion, Millie thought angrily. She wanted to throw the wallet in the trash to just forget about it and be done with it. She couldn't stand the sight of it, even if she could use the cash. She wanted to throw it away just like Derek had thrown her away. He probably doesn't need it anyway. Millie felt guilty thinking about throwing out such a large amount of money, even if it was a negligible amount to someone like Derek. I should return it to him, she sighed. I'll give it back to him, and then we're never interacting ever again. He's out of my life forever. Millie felt good about this plan. She checked the time and realized it was almost afternoon already. She decided to wear something different to meet Derek at school. She looked in her drawers thoughtfully for a long time, before finally settling on something she felt was presentable. She looked at her reflection in the broken mirror and tied her long hair into a ponytail. She put on a bit of light makeup on her face. This is for me, not for him, she reminded herself. Why do I care what I look like when he sees me? It doesn't matter what he thinks because there's nothing there. Millie shook her head. I'm just returning his wallet, That's all. She picked up the wallet, threw it in an old worn bag, and walked out. After riding 2 stops on the bus, Millie arrived at the entrance of Marshall High. She stood on her tiptoes trying to see through the gate at the front of the school. She felt a surge of envy as she looked around at what was visible on the campus. What I would give to spend time at a place like this, and they all just expect it and take it for granted, Millie thought bitterly. It would be a while before school let out, so Millie found a nearby restaurant and ordered a cheap lunch. She had not eaten anything since last night. She wolfed down her meal and played with her phone to pass the time. Once it was closer to the end of classes, Millie walked back to the entrance of Marshall High and waited to spot Derek. The school bell rang, and the students flooded into the hallways and courtyards. Many of them passed by Millie and gave her strange looks. They could tell she did not belong there based on her appearance. She did not have expensive clothes, and she had a palpable haunted energy that was different than the average teenager who had never known struggle. Millie avoided their judgmental eyes and held her head high to hide any self-consciousness. She didn't know exactly why they were staring at her, or what they were expecting, but she figured it had something to do with not fitting in. She had purposely put on her best, most stylish clothes today, but of course, it was not enough to blend in at a place like that. They can really tell from over there. Millie rolled her eyes. Trying to keep up in a judgy place like this must be exhausting. So what if my clothes aren't designer brands or the newest fashion? Millie wanted to hiss at the spoiled rich kids and see the scared looks on their faces, but she decided against it. I'm just here to return the wallet, she reminded herself. Derek is really lucky I'm such a nice person bringing his wallet back like this. Will he even appreciate it? Or will he see me and freak out? He might even think that I tried to steal it. I don't want him making a scene in front of all these stuck-up kids. Maybe I should just bail. I could always wait and see if he comes by the bar again and give his wallet to him then. If he shows up, then he deserves to get it back. If not, then he never cared about it anyway. She nodded to herself and settled on her new plan, satisfied. Millie turned around to leave when she heard a curious voice. Millie? Millie heard someone say her name and she turned to see who it was. She did not recognize the guy standing there, and he appeared to be on his phone. Jake Nevin was indeed talking on his phone, but he had been talking about Millie, not Millie, and she'd misheard. He noticed Millie staring at him expectantly. Why is this strange girl looking at me? Does she even go to school here? He ended his phone call and looked at Millie warily. Can I help you? Millie folded her arms. Jake seemed annoyed by her, but he was the one who said her name in the first place. Did you say my name a second ago? I doubt it. Jake scoffed. I don't even know who you are. Didn't you say Millie just now? Millie pressed. She did not like the way this guy looked at her with such disdain. Oh, I said Millie, and you're obviously not her. Jake answered. Obviously not. My mistake then. Millie shrugged and backed away. This guy is so rude, she thought. She was glad he didn't know her after all, so she wouldn't have to talk to him anymore. Millie? Another male voice said, this time in surprise. Millie turned and saw Derek looking at her with an uncomfortable expression. He looked better than when he left that morning, and his arm had fresh bandages. Millie walked over to him. Derek, there you are, she said, relieved to see a familiar face, even if it was someone she was upset with. What are you doing here? Derek asked. He looked around nervously. We should probably talk somewhere else. Come this way. The last thing Derek wanted was for Millie to meet Millie there at school. Millie seemed to have a much more positive impression of him, and he didn't want Millie ruining that by telling her what he was really like. He felt surprised that he cared what Millie thought of him this much. He usually didn't care what anyone thought, so why her? She's just some bartender who got the wrong idea, he reminded himself. Why did she come all this way to my school just to talk to me? And about what? Millie followed Derek until he stopped behind a building where they were less likely to be seen. Of course he doesn't want to be seen with me. Millie scoffed internally. Wouldn't want your rich friends to get the wrong idea about us, she thought bitterly. She roughly fished Derek's wallet out of her bag and held it out to him impatiently. You left this. Oh, thank you, Derek said in surprise. He felt stupid for jumping to the conclusion that she was somehow there to talk to him about last night. He was embarrassed and didn't know what to do. Should I reward her? She could probably use the cash. He accepted the wallet and pulled out $100. Take this for your trouble. That's not necessary. Millie waved her hand and shook her head. You don't want it? You didn't have to come all this way. You could have kept it. Most people would have, Derek said as he held out the money. I'm not most people, I guess, Millie said bluntly. I don't want your money. I'm not some charity case, Millie said as she gently but firmly pushed Derek's outstretched hand with the money back toward him. Derek was speechless. He noticed a few other students started to pass by them. Millie looks out of place at this school, and she's attracting attention, he thought. He made eye contact with one student who was staring at him as he held out money to this strange girl. He self-consciously put the money back in his wallet and put it away. Let's go over here. Derek motioned for Millie to follow him. Why? Millie snapped. She was tired of being treated like an embarrassment. Can you just please come with me? Derek insisted. She followed him out from behind the building. Just as they emerged into the hallway, Derek heard someone's voice behind them. Hey, Millie, who is that girl over there with Derek? Olivia asked. She walked with Millie, Cameron, Camilla, Morgana, Francis, and Sam Feinstein. Millie looked in the direction Olivia gestured, and she was stunned to see Derek talking to some girl she did not recognize. She was surprised anyone at Marshall High was talking to him at all. Does she go to this school? Derek stiffened as he heard Olivia draw Millie's attention to him and Millie. They shouldn't have a reason to come over to talk to us, Derek hoped. Millie already hates me anyway. I don't know who that is, Millie said slowly, trying to figure out if she was just forgetting. There was a nagging sensation somewhere in the back of her mind that she should know who this girl was. Without thinking about it too hard, Millie walked closer to Derek and Millie. Do I know you? She asked Millie, narrowing her eyes cautiously. Cameron and Camilla exchanged confused glances. They had no idea who this girl was either, or what was going on. I don't think so. Do I know you? Millie asked hesitantly. This strange questioning is at least better than being ogled for not looking rich enough, Millie thought. My name is Millie, Millie offered in case it made a difference. Millie, Millie repeated and mumbled it again to herself. To her surprise, the name did feel familiar. Through the haze in her mind, a fuzzy memory gradually appeared. Maybe you do seem familiar, Millie said in surprise. Huh, Millie said and kept looking at Millie. Maybe we do know each other. Millie didn't know why, but she had a very strange feeling. It wasn't the sensation of meeting an old friend exactly, but more of a clear, gut feeling that this person standing in front of her would be important to her in the future. She was not sure if that feeling was good or bad, but she could not ignore it. Millie felt confused and as though she were on the edge of something exciting or terrifying. Derek stared at Millie with just as much confusion. What are they talking about? How could they possibly know each other? Cameron and Camilla looked back and forth between Derek, Millie, and each other and shrugged. Cameron had a nagging, wild guess in the back of his mind. Millie grew up in an orphanage. Could this be someone she remembers from the orphanage or something? I do remember you. Millie took a step toward Millie. You were there, at the orphanage. Millie's blood ran cold at the mention of the orphanage. But this was the answer she had been searching for in the fog of her memories. You were always trying to stick up for the rest of us, especially the younger kids who were starving. Millie remembered excitedly. You even stole some food from me once, and they punished you by starving you for a full day. People used to joke that we had similar names back then. I guess we still do. Millie frowned, trying to remember. She felt bad that her memories of Millie were not as vivid. All of the time she had been locked in a dark room, beaten or punished with no food, were the main things she remembered. Recalling them now made her heart start to pound, and the hairs on the back of her neck stood on end. Everything else from that time had been blocked out. She didn't remember Millie specifically, but it was true that she had stuck her neck out to help the other kids and was punished brutally for it. "It's me, Millie. You really don't remember? What was the name?" Millie thought carefully. Her eyes lit up as soon as it came to her. Angel Wish Orphanage. Olivia's eyes widened as she watched Millie and Millie piece things together. Her detective mind went straight to work. Millie and Millie are from the same orphanage. What are the odds? Is it really that amazing of a coincidence? "That's the one," Millie nodded. She had struggled to remember on her own, but that was the name that matched her vague memories of the word angel in the name of the orphanage. "I remember you were adopted by a very well-off person." Millie sighed wistfully. "I wasn't so lucky." She smiled, and there was a deep sadness in her eyes. "Here you are at this fancy school, and I ended up with people who forced me out on my own at such a young age," she thought wistfully. I'm having a really hard time remembering anything from back then, to tell you the truth," Millie admitted. "If you don't remember, that's probably for the best." Millie laughed darkly. "None of the memories are good ones." She shrugged. "The experiences there have a strange effect on us, I think. It's like once you arrive, you don't remember anything from before you were there, and you block out a lot of what happened while you were there." "You seem to remember Millie really well," Olivia said to Millie with a touch of suspicion. "It's true. How could I forget Millie?" Millie smiled. "Before she came to the orphanage, I was the target of so much cruelty and bullying. Once Millie arrived, she became the target instead. It's terrible to say, but I was a kid and I didn't know how to help, and I was just glad to have any relief. Then, when you were adopted, I became the target again." Olivia tightened her grip on her books, but didn't give away her apprehension. "Is Millie here to get revenge on Millie for being adopted and leaving her to suffer? That was not Millie's fault. They were both victims of that terrible place. I have to read Millie's mind and find out what she's here to do. Will I need to protect Millie from her?" Olivia subtly used her powers to look into Millie's mind, seeking to understand her intentions. As she delved into Millie's thoughts, she heard, "Seeing Millie is like looking into a mirror and transporting back in time. She looks good. I'm happy she's doing well. At least one of us deserved a good life. And if it's not me, I'm glad it's her." This revelation brought a sense of relief to Olivia, knowing Millie harbored no ill will towards Millie. Turning to Derek, Olivia asked pointedly, "Derek, how do you know Millie?" Derek shifted uncomfortably under Olivia's gaze. His eyes darted around and he fumbled for words, clearly unnerved by the question. Millie watched him intently, her eyes filled with hope that he would be truthful. "Is he really going to lie?" she thought, her heart sinking. "After everything, he can't even admit how we met?" Her thoughts turned bitter. I should have known. To him, I'm just a poor girl, a charity case. He's too ashamed to even acknowledge our meeting. As Millie opened her mouth, preparing to reveal the truth herself, Derek, driven by frustration and fear of exposure, abruptly cut her off. He grabbed her hand and pulled her away from the group, his actions quick and forceful. The group, including Olivia, Millie, Cameron, Camilla, Sam Feinstein, Morgana, and Francis, watched in confusion as Derek hastily escorted Millie away. Their expressions were a mix of bewilderment and concern, each trying to make sense of the sudden, intense interaction. Millie, being led away by Derek, felt a mix of anger and disappointment. Why can't he just be honest? She thought, her mind racing with frustration. Why does he have to treat me like I'm something to be ashamed of? Millie stood there, rooted to the spot, her eyes following Millie as she was led away by Derek. She was in a trance, overwhelmed by the unexpected encounter. Millie's presence had stirred something deep within her, a whirlwind of emotions and memories she had long tried to suppress. Her gaze remained fixated on Millie in the distance, a flood of thoughts rushing through her mind. Seeing Millie, it was like being hit by a wave. It's too much. Too sudden. How is she here? Why now? Millie thought, her head pounding. Millie's mind was a tumult of memories from the orphanage, each one more painful than the last. Millie, she was there through it all. The hurt, the loneliness. We suffered so much, and now, seeing her, it's all coming back. She struggled internally, trying to push those haunting memories away. No, I can't go back to that place in my mind. I've worked so hard to block it out, to move on. I can't let this pull me back. With a deep sigh, Millie shook herself out of her reverie. We should go, she said, her voice slightly shaky. Let's visit Lena at the hospital. Olivia and Morgana exchanged a glance. We can't today, Millie, Olivia said gently. We have to head to Park Inc. Work stuff. Morgana nodded in agreement. Yeah, sorry, Millie, next time, okay? Millie turned to Sam, Francis, Cameron, and Camilla. Do you guys want to come with me to see Lena? Sam nodded. Of course we'll come. Francis added, Yeah, Lena would love to see us. Cameron and Camilla exchanged a look and then agreed. We're in. The group said their goodbyes to Olivia and Morgana, then they set off towards the hospital. Hidden across the street, Jake Nevin watched the group intently, his gaze particularly fixed on the interaction between Millie and Mellie. He leaned against a shadowed wall, a calculating glint in his eyes. They look so much alike, it's uncanny, Jake muttered to himself, a smirk playing on his lips. Millie and Millie, like two sides on the same coin. It's almost eerie. He observed Millie's reaction closely. She looked like she'd seen a ghost when she saw Millie. There's history there, deep and probably dark. Something I can use. Jake began to pace, his mind racing with devious thoughts. What if I could get Millie to turn on Millie? Create some chaos in Millie's oh-so-perfect life. It would be delicious to watch her world crumble. He chuckled darkly, entertaining the possibilities. Millie could be the perfect pawn. If she's from Millie's past, especially a painful part, she could be manipulated, used to get under Millie's skin. I could drive a wedge between them, making Millie doubt everyone around her. Jake's eyes gleamed with malice as he continued. Yes, Millie could be my ticket to really getting at Millie. Imagine the havoc I could wreak with someone who shares her past. It would be so easy to stir up old fears and old insecurities. Millie wouldn't know what hit her. He leaned back, satisfaction spreading across his face. This is perfect. I need to find out more about Millie and how she fits into Millie's life. Then I can start my little game. It's going to be so much fun watching Millie's perfect little world fall apart. And I'll be there to enjoy every moment of it. Jake's laughter echoed softly in the empty street as he reveled in the potential chaos he could orchestrate using Millie as his unsuspecting tool. As Millie and the group walked through the hospital corridors towards Lena's room, Francis shuffled awkwardly beside her, a nervous energy about him. Clearing his throat, he hesitantly spoke up. Millie, can I ask you something? Of course, Francis, Millie replied, sensing his unease. Francis, his face turning a shade of red, fumbled with his words. Is Carlton still in town? Is he still visiting Lena? Millie noted Francis's discomfort and the undercurrent of worry in his question. His concern for Lena and the dynamic with Carlton was evident, yet he tried to mask it with a casual tone. Millie found Francis's shyness and evident concern endearing. Yeah, Carlton's still here. He's been visiting Lena regularly. Francis visibly deflated, his worry becoming more pronounced. Oh no, Carlton's still here. What if he and Lena... His mind raced with anxious thoughts. I just mustered the courage to tell Lena how I feel, and now Carlton might just sweep her off her feet. He's from Europe, for crying out loud. That's impressive. Millie observed Francis's growing distress. Hey, Francis, she said gently, trying to reassure him. Carlton is no competition for you. Francis looked at Millie, his expression a mix of hope and doubt. Are you sure? Because, they play video games together, and she's still recovering from her injury. They could bond over that. And Carlton, he came all this way to see her. That has to mean something, right? He went on listing potential scenarios where Carlton and Lena's shared interests could inadvertently lead to a deeper connection. And he's charming, and he's got that accent, and they have so much in common. What if Lena falls for him? Millie placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. Francis, Lena likes you, not Carlton. That's what really matters. Francis took a deep breath, trying to internalize Millie's words. She's right. I need to be confident. Lena likes me. I can't let my insecurities get the best of me. He nodded, feeling a bit more assured, but still carrying a hint of worry as they continued toward Lena's room. Millie turned to Francis, her expression lined with concern. Francis, you're pretty knowledgeable about the business world, right? I'm worried about Olivia. She seems so stressed lately. Do you think it's because of her business? Francis nodded thoughtfully. The business climate in New York is incredibly challenging at the moment. The traditional power structures are shifting. The old guard, the major families that used to run things, are either falling apart or losing their grip. In their place, new players are emerging, bringing in fresh capital and modern tactics. He sighed before continuing. Right now, there's a lot of talk about the Rose Company. They're planning to launch operations that will directly compete with Olivia's Park Corporation. It is a big deal because the Rose family has deep pockets and significant influence. They could be a real threat to Olivia. Millie's brow furrowed with worry. That sounds serious. I had no idea Olivia was under so much pressure. Francis tried to reassure her. Olivia is tough, and the Park Corporation is not just any company. It's Olivia's company, and she's weathered storms before, so the company will be fine. But yes, this is a significant challenge, even for someone as capable as Olivia. As they reached Lena's room, the mood shifted. Inside, they found Carlton in a moment of tender caregiving, feeding Lena a banana. Carlton playfully teased Lena as he brought the banana to her lips. Open wide for the choo-choo train, Carlton joked, mimicking a train sound, bringing up a burst of laughter from Lena. Francis, however, felt a pang of worry at the sight. His heart sank as he watched the intimate interaction, his earlier fears resurfacing. Francis tried to mask his concern with a polite smile, but inside his mind raced with anxiety. Is Carlton getting too close to Lena? Do I even still have a chance? Lena greeted her friends with a quick smile, her focus soon returning to the video game before her. Hey guys, just give me a minute here, she said, her eyes glued to the screen. Carlton, standing beside her, announced to Millie, Francis, and the group, Lena is in the middle of the best game of her life right now. She's absolutely crushing it. The group gathered around Lena, watching in awe as she expertly maneuvered her character, Gamer Bunny Girl, through the virtual battlefield. Lena's fingers danced across the controller with impressive agility and precision. She navigated her character through a maze of challenges, dodging attacks and executing perfectly timed counter-strikes. The game chat was filled with messages from other players, expressing their shock and admiration. Who is this Gamer Bunny Girl? She's unstoppable. One message read. Another exclaimed, Never seen anyone play like this. She's on another level. Carlton stood close to Lena, occasionally rubbing her shoulders in a show of support. His presence was comforting yet noticeably intimate, his hands occasionally brushing her hair as he leaned in to whisper words of encouragement. Francis watched, his eyes fixated on Carlton's hands as they moved over Lena's shoulders. He's practically hovering over her. Does he have to be that close? He thought as his jealousy began to grow. Look at him, Mr. Smooth, trying to be all supportive. Francis fumed internally. She doesn't need his support. She's amazing on her own. Why is he even trying to be supportive? Shouldn't he be playing some game and spending his dad's money to get to the next level? The chat continued to buzz with admiration for Lena. Gamer Bunny Girl just set a new record. One message read, "She's rewriting the rulebook of this game." Commented another, "If Gamer Bunny Girl isn't a pro gamer, she's missing her calling." A third player remarked. As Carlton used his hands to massage Lena's shoulders, Francis's thoughts grew more frantic. Is he giving her a massage now? Really? Right in front of everyone? And why does Lena look so relaxed? She's smiling. Do massages make people fall in love? Is that a thing? Carlton, ever the doting friend, hovered close to Lena. He reached over to hand her a bottle of water, his fingers gently brushing against hers, causing Francis's heart to skip a beat. Carlton then grabbed half of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and held it up to Lena's mouth, feeding her in between her intense gaming sessions. Lena accepted the gesture with a casual nod, not breaking her focus from the game. Francis watched this interaction, his thoughts racing. Is he seriously feeding her now? What's next? A candle at dinner in the middle of a boss fight? And Lena just keeps playing like it's the most normal thing in the world? Millie, standing to the side, couldn't help but notice Carlton's closeness to Lena. He was right there, almost hovering, as he offered her water and snacks. It was strangely intimate, especially for Lena. Millie also observed Francis, whose expression was a mix of awe at Lena's gaming prowess and barely concealed jealousy over Carlton's actions. Francis looks like he's about to jump out of his skin, Millie thought. He's watching Carlton like a hawk. Poor guy, he's so transparent. It's kind of adorable in a way. Francis tried to look casual as his eyes stayed locked on Carlton. A snarl started to develop on Francis's face until he realized he needed to play it cool. Millie's thoughts continued. Lena is in her element, and Carlton is just being supportive, I guess. But Francis definitely doesn't see it that way. He's like a jealous puppy, worried that someone else is playing with his favorite toy. A brief flicker of sadness crossed Francis's face as he watched the way Carlton smiled at Lena. He wanted to be the one smiling at Lena, holding her hand and supporting her as she crushed her game. Francis's scowl returned as his eyes darted between Lena and Carlton. Millie silently chuckled, finding humor in Francis's awkwardness. There he goes again, eyebrows doing a tango each time Carlton gets close to Lena. If looks could kill, Carlton would be a goner. Maybe I should start a betting pool on when Francis will finally explode. Carlton carefully adjusted the gaming headset on Lena's ears, his fingers lingering a little too long near her hair. Lena, engrossed in the game, continued to be oblivious to Carlton's doting behavior, her eyes never leaving the screen. Now he's fixing her headset? What is he, her personal gaming butler? Francis thought, his frustration mounting. As the game reached its climax, Carlton reached over to brush a stray hair from Lena's forehead, his touch gentle yet noticeably close. Francis couldn't help but roll his eyes. Oh, come on, he's acting like she's in a shampoo commercial. It's a gaming session, not a spa day. On screen, Lena was in a showdown with the huge boss, a towering figure clad in menacing armor, wielding a massive energy weapon. Lena's character, smaller but infinitely more agile, darted around the screen, avoiding the boss's powerful attacks. The boss fight was intense. Lena's avatar moved fluidly, dodging energy blasts and returning fire with her arsenal of high-tech gadgets. Francis and the others watched in awe as Lena executed a perfect combo, her avatar leaping into the air and launching a barrage of energy discs. The boss staggered, its armor falling apart, revealing its vulnerable core. With a final triumphant move, Lena's character unleashed a powerful energy beam, striking the boss directly in its core. The screen erupted in a spectacular display of light and sound as the boss disintegrated, signaling Lena's victory. The game announced her triumph in bold letters across the screen. Victory! The chat exploded with messages of disbelief and admiration. Gamer Bunny Girl defeated the boss. Legend, read one message. That final move was epic. Gamer Bunny Girl is the real deal, said another. Carlton, standing beside Lena, cheered, clapping loudly. As Lena finally concluded her epic gaming session, she turned her attention back to her friends, a satisfied smile on her face. Millie, eager to check in, asked, So, Lena, how have you been holding up here in the hospital? Lena's response was upbeat. Actually, it's been pretty good. Not as hard as I thought it would be. It's been really helpful having Carlton around to play games with. He's been great company. Carlton, standing nearby, flashed a smile at Lena, obviously pleased with her appreciation. Francis, however, couldn't help but roll his eyes discreetly at Carlton's response. I hate that guy, he thought, feeling a twinge of annoyance. Changing the subject, Lena shared some exciting news with her friends. Guess what? I'll be going back to school in 2 days. Millie's face lit up with excitement. That's awesome, Lena. We've missed you so much at school. Lena's eyes sparkled with excitement. I can't wait to be back. It feels like I've been away forever. It will be great to see everyone again. As her gaze drifted to Francis, a faint blush colored her cheeks. Francis, noticing her look, felt his own face heat up, his heart fluttering. Their moment was interrupted when Carlton's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and excused himself, saying, I have to take this, before stepping out of the room to answer the call. Millie observed Lena and Francis with a mischievous gleam in her eye. They're so into each other and they don't even know it, she thought amusedly. Millie's mind whirled with ideas. Maybe I can help things along. Get them some alone time. They just need a little nudge. Plotting her next move, Millie suddenly exclaimed, Oh, Sam, Cameron, Camilla, we urgently need to discuss that group project. Yeah, in the hallway right now. Sam, Cameron, and Camilla exchanged puzzled glances, but followed Millie out of the room, leaving Lena and Francis alone. The room suddenly felt much larger with just the two of them. An awkward silence enveloped Lena and Francis, each acutely aware of the other's presence. Breaking the silence, they both started to speak simultaneously. I was just going to say... They stopped, then chuckled awkwardly, their cheeks tinged with red. They shared a bashful, nervous laugh. Their faces flushed even harder with a rosy tint of embarrassment. You go first, Lena said, smiling softly at Francis. Francis took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest. This is it. Just say it, he urged himself. Lena waited patiently, her expression soft and encouraging. Francis was usually so confident. Seeing him this nervous was both endearing and a little surprising. Francis, his palms sweaty, felt his heart race. Come on, Francis. You can do this. Just tell her how you feel. He took a deep breath, mustering up his courage. Lena's heart fluttered, sensing the significance of what Francis was trying to say. She leaned in slightly, showing her willingness to listen, giving Francis the confidence boost he needed to express his feelings. Well, Lena, I wanted to ask you... Francis's voice trailed off, his nerves getting the better of him. Could he tell her? Is he going to ask me? Is this it? Lena thought, her mind buzzing with possibilities. She watched Francis intently, her eyes wide with anticipation. Her heart raced, a mix of excitement and nerves swirling within her. Her internal dialogue raced. What if he's about to ask me to be his girlfriend? Oh gosh, that would be amazing, but also really nerve-wracking. Can I be a good girlfriend with this leg of mine? But still, I really hope he asks. Despite her nerves, Lena couldn't help but feel a surge of hope. He's going to ask me. I can feel it. Come on, Francis, you can do it. Francis looked at Lena, noticing how her eyes sparkled with expectation. She looked so cute in her hospital bed, even with her bum leg. She's incredible, he thought. Here goes nothing. Opening his mouth to speak, Francis found his words jumbled. his nervousness getting the better of him. Lena, I wanted to know if you wanted something to drink. I can get you something from the vending machine. Lena's face fell, her excitement quickly turning to disappointment. She looked away, trying to hide her letdown. Oh, just a drink, of course. Francis, realizing he had missed his opportunity, looked away, feeling a wave of embarrassment. He had planned to say so much more, but at the crucial moment, his courage had failed him. Sure, Francis, Lena said, trying to hide her disappointment. Thanks. Francis mentally berated himself as he left the room. Why did I ask her about a drink? Really, Francis? A yoo-hoo? His mind raced with frustration. I had the perfect opportunity to ask her out, and I blew it. I just chickened out at the last second. He continued to scold himself internally. You had one job, Francis. Just ask her to be your girlfriend, but no. You had to go and offer a vending machine drink. Smooth, real smooth. Lena, left alone in the room, felt a mixture of confusion and disappointment. What just happened? Why was it so awkward between us? She sighed, feeling a twinge of sadness. I thought maybe, just maybe, he was going to ask me out, or even ask me to be his girlfriend. She played the scenario over in her head. We were both nervous, but I really hoped he'd say something more. What do we even have between us? Is there anything at all? Lena's thoughts swirled with questions and what-ifs. Is he just not that into me? Or is he as scared as I am about taking the next step? I wish I knew. Her internal dialogue was interrupted when Carlton walked back into the room, snapping her back to reality. Lena forced a smile, pushing her thoughts about Francis aside as she turned her attention to Carlton. As Carlton entered the room, he unexpectedly enveloped Lena in a hug. Lena, taken aback, hesitantly returned the embrace, her mind filled with confusion. Why is he hugging me like this? This isn't like Carlton, she thought, puzzled by his sudden show of emotion. Pulling back, Carlton looked at Lena with a seriousness she hadn't seen in him before. I have to leave tonight, Lena, he said solemnly. Lena's confusion deepened. Leave? But why? Where are you? Her questions were cut short as Carlton interrupted. I'm going to miss you, Lena. I won't see you again for another 2 years, and I won't be able to play any more games from now on. Lena's internal thoughts raced. 2 years? No games? What's going on with him? This is so unlike Carlton. She tried to lighten the mood. You're joking, right? You'll be back playing games in no time. It's what you do best, after all. Carlton shook his head. I wish I were joking, Lena, but I'm serious. I won't be able to see you or play games for a long time. Lena, still not fully grasping the situation, pressed on. But what will you do without your games? That's all you ever do. Carlton gave a half smile, but didn't elaborate. I'll be busy with other things. Just can't say much more than that. Lena tried to process this information, her mind racing. What's Carlton up to? This doesn't make any sense. Determined to lighten the mood, Lena teased. So who am I going to beat at Space Raiders now? You're leaving me without a worthy opponent. Carlton chuckled. Oh, Lena, as if you ever considered me a worthy opponent. You just enjoyed watching me lose. Lena laughed, the tension easing slightly. Well, it's not my fault you're so easy to beat. I guess I'll just have to find someone else to thrash in your absence. Carlton feigned indignation. Easy to beat. I'll have you know I was going easy on you, to boost your confidence. Oh, is that so? Lena raised an eyebrow playfully. I think you're just trying to save face because you can't handle my gaming skills. Carlton leaned in, a mischievous glint in his eye. All right, Lena, you got me. But mark my words, when I come back, I'll be a gaming master. You won't know what hit you. Lena's eyes sparkled with amusement. I look forward to it, Carlton. But remember, I'm only getting better too. You'll have your work cut out for you. The playful banter between Carlton and Lena took an unexpected turn when Carlton leaned in and planted a soft kiss on Lena's forehead. Lena jumped slightly, a deep blush coloring her cheeks at the unexpected gesture. Carlton, too, seemed taken aback by his own boldness, his face turning a shade of red as he averted his gaze, a hint of embarrassment visible. Why did you kiss me?" Lena asked, her voice a mix of surprise and curiosity. Carlton took a deep breath, his eyes meeting hers. "I've wanted to do that for a while now," he admitted, his voice soft but earnest. Lena's heart fluttered, unsure how to respond, her blush deepening. Carlton continued, his confession pouring out. "Lena, I like you. I've liked you for a long time. You're amazing, you know? You're not just incredible at games, but you're funny, you're kind, and you're the strongest person I know. I've always admired how you handle everything with such grace." Lena sat in stunned silence, overwhelmed by Carlton's words. Her mind raced, trying to process his feelings for her while grappling with her own feelings for Francis. Her internal dialogue was a whirlwind. Carlton likes me, but I've been so focused on Francis. Carlton's been here, always so kind and fun, but I never thought, what do I do now? Carlton's confession hung in the air, creating a palpable silence in the room. He began to feel the weight of his vulnerability, his cheeks burning with the mix of embarrassment and anxiety. The silence stretched on, becoming increasingly awkward. Carlton shifted his weight from one foot to the other, looking at Lena, who seemed lost for words. Finally, Carlton broke the silence. "You don't have to say anything right now, Lena. I just wanted to tell you how I feel. I really like you, and I've really enjoyed spending time with you." Lena opened her mouth to respond, but words failed her. She was still processing Carlton's revelation, her mind a tumult of emotions. In an attempt to ease the tension, Carlton stepped forward and gave Lena another awkward hug. The embrace was stiff and uneasy, a clear reflection of the uncertain emotions swirling between them. As Carlton began to walk towards the door, he paused, turning back to face Lena. "I meant every word, Lena. And if you can wait for 2 years, I'll be back, and we can be together." Lena, still reeling from his initial confession, was taken aback. "Be together?" she echoed, confusion evident in her tone. "Yeah," Carlton said, a hopeful look in his eyes, "like boyfriend and girlfriend. If you're willing to wait for me, I'll be waiting for you." He gave her a small, hopeful smile, then turned and left the room, leaving Lena in a whirlwind of thoughts. Her mind raced with what Carlton had said, the idea of waiting for him and her own tangled feelings for Francis. As Carlton exited the room, Francis walked in, a yoo-hoo in his hand. His steps faltered when he saw Lena, his eyes flickering from her to the floor, a mix of surprise and heartbreak in his expression. The tension in the room was thick with awkwardness. Lena, still reeling from Carlton's confession, looked equally shocked to see Francis. "Did you hear what Carlton said?" Lena asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Francis nodded, his voice low. "Yeah, I heard everything." He hesitated before asking the question weighing heavily on his mind. "So do you want to wait for Carlton?" Lena shook her head quickly. "No, I don't want to wait for Carlton." Internally, Lena was a whirlwind of emotions. "I can't believe Francis heard that. Now he'll never want to be with me." Her thoughts were filled with regret and worry. Francis, meanwhile, was battling his own insecurities. "I can't believe I waited so long to tell Lena how I feel. Carlton just said it, and here I am still struggling." He felt a pang of frustration at his own hesitation. Lena started to apologize to Francis about the gamer identity lie, but Francis cut her off. "Lena, I like you," he blurted out, his feelings spilling over. "I've liked you for a long time. You're amazing, and I just wanted you to know." He went on, words tumbling out in a rush. "You don't have to tell me you feel the same way right now, but I really hope you do." "Lena," Overwhelmed and relieved, quickly responded, I do, I really do, I like you. Their eyes met, smiles spreading across their faces as they both blushed. Promise me you won't change your mind about liking me? Lena asked, her voice hopeful. Francis extended his pinky. I promise. I won't change my mind. They linked pinkies, sealing the promise. I can't believe I waited this long to say it, but I like you, Lena. In the high-rise office of the park company, the afternoon sun casts a golden hue across the sleek, modern decor. Olivia sat behind her desk, her sharp eyes scanning an elegantly embossed invitation. The card, with its sophisticated calligraphy, announced a banquet hosted by the New York Chamber of Commerce. A hint of skepticism creased Olivia's forehead as she murmured to herself, Since when does the New York Chamber of Commerce host these kinds of events? It's completely out of character. Olivia mused, her voice tinged with suspicion. She recalled her extensive knowledge of the city's business events in her past life, finding no memory of such an extravagant affair. Her fingers flipped the invitation over, revealing a small yet significant detail. The Rose Company's logo as the event sponsor. Olivia's eyes narrowed. Ah, there it is. I knew something fishy was up. The Rose Company's involvement just proves it. She leaned back in her chair, her mind racing with questions. What is Mark DeLillo's angle here? Sponsoring a chamber event isn't his usual play. What kind of ties does he have with the chamber? And more importantly, what's he trying to accomplish if he's the puppet master behind this event? Just as Olivia's thoughts spiraled deeper into her thoughts of conspiracy and intrigue, the door to her office swung open. Violet entered. Violet's eyes quickly landed on the invitation in Olivia's hands. Oh, are we considering going to this Chamber of Commerce event? Olivia leaned back in her chair, her gaze fixed on the skyline outside her office window. The internal debate raged within her. A silent storm of strategy and suspicion. Should I go to this event? She pondered. The idea of walking into a potential trap set by Mark DeLillo and the Rose Company was not appealing. Yet she couldn't shake off the feeling that this was an opportunity too valuable to pass up. Attending could give me the perfect chance to see what Mark is really up to. Olivia reasoned internally. She knew that understanding her adversary's moves was crucial in the high-stakes game of corporate power. But is this exactly why Mark wants me there? To observe me? To throw me off balance? The thoughts swirled in her mind, each consideration weighed against the next. Finally, a decision crystallized, firm and resolute. I need to go. Not just to watch Mark, but to stay one step ahead. To be in control. Turning to Violet, who waited patiently, Olivia's voice was decisive. We're going to the event. It's a strategic move. We need to be there, see the playing field firsthand. Violet nodded, her expression one of determination. Got it, boss. Do you want me to bring anyone else along? Yes, Olivia replied, her mind already moving to the next piece of the plan. Call Jeff. Tell him he needs to be there with us. His insights could be invaluable. As Violet reached for her phone, a thought struck her. Olivia, do you think it's just a coincidence that this event is happening the day before the Rose Company's official launch? Olivia's lips pressed into a thin line, her eyes hardening. It's definitely not a coincidence. This is deliberate. Mark and the Rose Company are using this event to prop themselves up before their big launch. They're hoping it will put them in good graces with both consumers and the Chamber of Commerce. Violet leaned in closer to Olivia, a hint of urgency in her posture. Olivia, there's something you need to know about Mark's recent activities. She began, her voice low but clear. Olivia turned her full attention to Violet. What's he been up to now? Last night, at a charity gala, Mark dropped a staggering $880,000. Violet revealed, her eyes reflecting the largeness of the figure. Olivia raised an eyebrow, processing the information. And why am I only hearing about this now? I wasn't invited to the gala, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't be kept in the loop. Violet nodded apologetically. I know, I should have told you sooner. It won't happen again. Olivia's gaze sharpened. Wait, why were you at the gala, Violet? Violet straightened up, a flicker of pride in her eyes. I got an invite. It was a last-minute thing. Came directly from the charity organizers. Olivia's mind raced with questions. Is Violet telling the truth? Why would she get an invite to a high-profile event like that? Olivia's thoughts circled the possibility of hidden agendas, but then she paused. She knew Violet, and trusted her. No, Violet's been loyal and upfront. There's no reason to doubt her now. Olivia let her suspicion fade away, replaced by a strategic focus. All right, let's use the upcoming event to gather more intel on Mark. We need to understand his game plan. Violet nodded in agreement. Absolutely. I'll keep my ears open. With a determined nod, Violet turned and left Olivia's office. Morgana, who'd been sitting quietly in the corner of the room, engrossed in her phone, suddenly looked up. Should I come to the party too? She asked, her tone casual, yet curious. Olivia turned to face Morgana, considering her question carefully. After a moment, she replied, I don't think you should go, Morgana. This event, it's not the right setting for your talents. Morgana tilted her head, a playful smirk forming on her lips. Why not? I could be of help, in cutting off the head of the snake that we call Mark DeLillo. Metaphorically speaking, of course. Olivia chuckled softly, appreciating Morgana's zeal. It's too soon for that, Morgana, and when it's time to cut off Mark's head, I'd like to do the honors myself. Morgana's smile widened delightfully. Speaking of snakes, what do you think of this Melly character? Olivia asked, smoothly changing the subject. The very least I can say is that Melly doesn't have any dark magic around her. Morgana observed, her gaze sharp and analyzing. Olivia nodded, her expression turning thoughtful. I have a bad feeling about her, though. Everything about that orphanage she's involved with seems too fresh, too prominent. Why do you feel that way? Morgana inquired, genuinely interested. Olivia sighed. Melly, she seems to still harbor some terrible feelings and resentment about the orphanage. It's like a wound that never healed. It's like she's carrying something to prove or something. I don't think she wants to actively hurt Millie, but I think there is something inside of her that just needs to flip on a switch and boom, she's more dangerous than she appears. Which makes sense, trauma can do that to a person. Then Olivia looked directly at Morgana. Do you have any memory of your family before you went to live with and be trained by your master? Morgana's expression softened, a rare glimpse of vulnerability. I don't have any memories of them. I can sometimes remember their faces, but only in my dreams, so I can't tell if I'm making things up or not. It's funny, though. I don't remember much about them, but I still feel a sense of loyalty to my family, whoever they are. That's exactly why I'm uneasy about Melly, Olivia confessed. I don't think she feels loyalty, but it's clear she hasn't forgotten. I feel like everything about her time in the orphanage is seared into her memory. Instead of loyalty, she's filled with resentment, which can quickly turn into a desire for revenge. Morgana nodded, understanding dawning in her eyes. I get that. Resentment can be a powerful and dangerous motivator. Her voice was low and reflective. Just then, Jeff briskly entered Olivia's office, his expression serious. Olivia, I need to talk to you about the banquet hosted by the Rose Company. I don't think it's a good idea to bring Violet. Olivia looked up surprised. Why? What makes you think Violet shouldn't go to the party? Jeff hesitated for a moment, then said, I don't trust her, Olivia. Olivia raised an eyebrow. You don't trust Violet? Why? Jeff sighed. She always seems to have information on Mark, and she gets invitations to his events. It feels like they have a closer relationship than she's letting on. It doesn't seem safe for her to attend something sponsored by the Rose Company. Olivia's expression remained calm. I have full trust in Violet, Jeff. She's loyal. I understand why you're worried about her, but I need you to understand that I am not. Jeff looked unconvinced. I'm not sure you should have full trust in her. It seems risky, especially now. Inside, Jeff wrestled with his suspicions. I need to find a way to prove Violet is working with Mark, he thought. If she is a mole, it could jeopardize everything we've worked for. Olivia might trust her, but I can't afford to take that chance. I need evidence, something concrete. Jeff's resolve hardened. He was determined to protect Olivia and the company, even if it meant challenging her trust in Violet. Olivia noticed the deep contemplation etched on Jeff's face and decided it was time to shift the conversation. Jeff, let's talk about something else. How's business been this quarter? Jeff, visibly relieved at the change of topic, began to elaborate. Business has been exceeding expectations. Our revenues are up by 15% compared to last quarter. The new marketing strategies have really paid off, especially in our overseas markets. We've seen a significant uptick in Europe and Asia. He continued, his tone becoming more animated. Our product development team has been on fire, Olivia. The latest product line has been a massive hit. Customer feedback has been overwhelmingly positive, and our pre-orders for next quarter are already looking strong. Jeff paused, taking a breath. Also, our operational efficiency has improved. The new logistics software is a game changer. We're saving time and money on shipping, and it's having a noticeable impact on our bottom line. Olivia nodded, clearly pleased with the report. That's excellent news, Jeff. It sounds like we're in a great position to continue growing. As Jeff continued outlining various successful metrics, Olivia's mind began to wander. Our business is thriving. We're not just keeping pace, we're setting the bar. If we keep up this momentum, there's no limit to where we can go, she thought, a sense of pride swelling within her. Then her thoughts shifted. All we need now is a strong ally, someone who can help us expand even further. And of course, getting Mark out of the picture would remove a significant obstacle. Olivia leaned forward, her eyes sharp with focus. Is there anything else I should be aware of, Jeff? Jeff hesitated for a moment before responding. Actually, yes. I ran into Jared Nevin again last night. It seems there's trouble in the Nevin family. Jared and Jake had a pretty serious fight, and Jared is extremely unhappy in the Nevin household right now. Olivia's mind immediately sprang into action upon hearing this. Bingo. That's exactly what I needed to hear. If Jake and Jared continue their feud, an ally could fall right into my lap. Having Jared and Jake at odds should make it far easier for Jared to turn against his family and align with us, she thought, a strategic glimmer in her eye. Looking back at Jeff, Olivia's voice was confident and calculated. I think it's time we bring Jared in on our business plan. With the current tension in his family, he might be more receptive to our offer. Jeff nodded in agreement. That sounds like a solid plan. I'll start working on setting up a meeting with Jared. We can present our proposal and see how he responds. Excellent, Olivia said, satisfied with the direction things were heading. Keep me updated on your progress. Jeff stood up, ready to take action. Will do, Olivia. I'll get on it right away. With that, he exited Olivia's office. Olivia carefully reviewed the documents from the executive assistance group, marking names for further investigation. As she turned her attention to a business contract, her mind began to wander, drawn inexorably to the past. She thought back to the contract that had changed everything for her family. Jack Johnson had cunningly tricked her father, Michael, into signing it, a decision that led to the Park family's bankruptcy and forced them into a spiral of despair. This single document had been the turning point, dragging her father deeper into the Johnson family's business dealings, and ultimately leading to the end of her parents' relationship. It broke Michael and Victoria's trust so much that Michael was still trying to repair it. Olivia reflected on the aftermath. Mom was left to pick up the pieces. She became a single mother overnight, struggling to make ends meet and provide for me. The memory of those challenging times filled Olivia with a mixture of sadness and respect for her mother's resilience. She did her best, raising me alone. She was strong, independent, but I always felt the absence of Dad. The longing for a father-daughter relationship during her formative years was a void that often echoed in her heart. If it weren't for that contract, perhaps things would have been different. Maybe Dad would have stayed, and we could have been a family. Olivia's heart ached at the thought of what might have been. A life where her father was present, where they could have shared moments, memories, and a bond that she had always longed for. Because of that contract, I didn't grow up with my father. Michael was pulled away into the Johnson's web, leaving Mom and me to figure things out on our own. It's why there's always been this void, this unanswered question of what having a father in my life would have been like. The pain of the past was a constant reminder for Olivia. That contract didn't just ruin my parents' lives, it altered the course of mine. It took away the possibility of a happy, whole family. It's the reason I had to grow up wondering, always wondering about the father I barely knew. Despite this, Olivia acknowledged the position turn their relationship had taken in recent years. Now, Dad and I are in a good place, but I can't help but feel the loss of those younger years. The years we could have spent together, learning from each other, growing together. This personal history influenced Olivia's meticulous approach to her work. That contract taught me a valuable lesson. Words on paper have the power to change lives, to shape futures. I won't let myself be blindsided. I'll read every line, understand every clause. It's the only way to protect what I have and those I care about. Focused, Olivia returned her attention to the contract in front of her. Time seemed to melt away as Olivia remained deeply engrossed in her work. The rhythmic tapping of her keyboard filled the office, accompanied by the occasional rustle of papers. Outside her window, the sky transitioned from the soft hues of dusk to the deep blues of night. Inside, the only indication of time passing was the steady movements of the clock hands. By the time Olivia looked up, the clock in her office read 9 p.m. Wow, I can't believe I've worked this late again, Olivia muttered to herself in surprise. Just then her phone rang, breaking the silence. She glanced at the screen and saw her mom, Victoria, calling. With a sigh, she answered the phone. Olivia, where are you? It's so late. Victoria's voice came through the phone, laced with worry. I'm still at the office, Mom, Olivia replied, trying to sound calm. Victoria's concern was palpable. You shouldn't be there this late, Olivia. It's not good for you. You need to take care of yourself, not just your work. Olivia listened, a hint of guilt creeping in. You're just like your father, always spending all your time at work. But work isn't everything, Olivia. Living life, being with family, that's what's truly important. Victoria continued earnestly. I know, Mom. You're right. Olivia conceded, feeling the weight of her mother's words. You need to come home, Olivia. Don't let work consume your life. I agree, Mom. I'm packing up right now and I'll be heading home soon, Olivia promised, already starting to gather her things. As she switched off her office lights and locked the door, Olivia saw that Jeff Dryer's office was still lit. Curious, she knocked on his door. Jeff, are you planning to head home soon? She asked. Jeff looked up a bit startled. Oh, Olivia, yeah, I just want to finish up a few things first. Olivia frowned slightly. You need to go home and get some sleep, Jeff. It's late. Jeff smiled sheepishly. I know. I'll head out as soon as I wrap up here. Have you eaten anything since lunch? Olivia inquired, her tone a mix of concern and reprimand. Jeff paused, then realized with a start. Actually, no, I haven't. Olivia rolled her eyes. You work too hard, Jeff. Jeff chuckled. I work hard for you, Olivia. Her lips curled into a smile at Jeff's comment. With a final glance at his office, she turned to leave. Don't stay too much longer, Jeff. Good night. Good night, Olivia. Jeff called out as she walked away, the light in his office casting a warm glow in the quiet hallway. Olivia spotted Violet still at her desk and approached her. Violet, could you order some dinner for Jeff? He's still working and hasn't eaten since lunch. Violet nodded. Of course. I'll get right on it. Good night, Violet, Olivia said as she left the office. Violet begrudgingly began ordering the food. Jeff Dryer, so arrogant, she thought disdainfully. He probably thinks he's the king of this castle, and here I am, Violet, a captain of the Pluto Crime Syndicate, reduced to buying dinner for a man like him. With a few clicks, she ordered Jeff's food. Once the food arrived, Violet took it to Jeff's office. Without knocking, she entered, placing the food on his desk. Jeff looked up, clearly irritated. Violet, ever heard of knocking? He eyed her suspiciously. Let me guess. Olivia told you I don't trust you, and now you're trying to suck up? Violet's eyes flashed with anger. The last thing I would ever do is suck up to you, Jeff. Olivia asked me to order food for you. That's the only reason you're not starving right now. Jeff sneered. Ah, playing the delivery girl now. Violet leaned in, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Oh, Jeff, if I had $1 for every time your ego needed a reality check, I could buy this company and fire you myself. Jeff leaned back, smirking. And yet here you are, delivering dinner like a good little assistant. How quaint. Violet straightened up, her tone icy. This good little assistant could run circles around you, Dryer. Don't forget it. Run circles? More like run away from your own shadow. But keep pretending you're more than just Olivia's errand runner. Jeff retorted, his voice laced with condescension. Violet scoffed. In your dreams, Dryer. I'm here because I choose to be, not because I have nowhere else to go. Remember that. With that, Violet turned on her heel and left his office. As she walked away, a dark thought crossed her mind. If I wanted, Jeff Dryer could be eliminated without a trace. It would be so easy, and it would never be traced back to me. She sighed. Probably not worth it. Not yet, anyway. As soon as Lena saw Olivia and Morgana walk into her hospital room, she blurted, Oh my god, I have the biggest news ever to tell you. You'll never believe what happened. My head is still spinning. Olivia felt alarmed. Lena looks almost sick, she thought. I've never seen her look like this. It must be really bad. She rushed to Lena's bedside, sitting right next to her, and held her hand. It was clammy, and Lena's face was sweaty and pale. What happened, Lena? Are you okay? Morgana paced at the edge of the room, businesslike. She was ready to take action on whatever they would need to avenge Lena. Lena swallowed. Francis, he finally told me he likes me. We're together. We're boyfriend and girlfriend. Olivia burst out laughing, relieved. Lena, I thought something bad had happened. She scolded. You look sick. I feel sick, Lena said. I'm so excited when I think about it that I feel nauseous. It's like a dream. It doesn't feel real. Olivia grinned wide, so happy that this had finally happened after so long. Just have a good rest tonight. You'll wake up to find out it was a dream, she teased. No, you can't say that, Lena exclaimed. Don't be scared, Olivia reassured. I'm kidding. It really happened. It's real. It is, right? Lena asked, anxious. Oh my god, I'm so excited for everything. I hope I don't throw up on him. Olivia laughed. You probably won't throw up on him. Olivia was suddenly stricken with the memory from her past life of how Francis had been desperately obsessed with Pamela Cox, who resolutely ignored him when she wasn't viciously making fun of him. This new version of their lives was 1,000,000 times better. Olivia smiled at Lena. He's such a sweet guy. I'm really glad he's with someone like you, and you two can treat each other right. I hope so, Lena said, worried. What if I'm a bad girlfriend? Though I did tell him that if he took it back or changed his mind, I'd buy a sword, cut him into chunks, fry him up, and feed him to the dogs. Good Lord, Lena, what? Olivia cried. Morgana mumbled to herself. There are way more vicious, efficient, and untraceable ways to get revenge that I could give you, but nobody ever wants to hear it. Olivia ignored Morgana. You guys are still in the honeymoon phase. I don't think swords are supposed to be involved. Lena sighed. It happened to someone in a game I was playing. I think I got carried away. I should apologize to him. I should get him a present. Lena lit up. I just realized that since he's my boyfriend, I get to buy him presents. Oh my gosh, what should I get? Oh, he's gonna get something so cute. Olivia laughed. Lena slapped herself on the arm, then looked up into the air. Whoa, was that a mosquito? In a hospital? Olivia exclaimed. How did it get in here? That's no good. Where there's one, there are others, Morgana remarked grimly. Lena wrinkled her nose. Ew, oh no. I can't get out of here quickly enough. That reminds me, Morgana said. I brought you something. No, Morgana, Olivia scolded, warning her. Take your hand out of your pocket. You are not leaving anything behind. This is a hospital. You can't leave weird, dangerous things around. Morgana rolled her eyes, but did remove her hand from her pocket as she was told. She crossed her arms and looked away, feeling defiant. Olivia turned to Lena. If you need anything, just tell me. We're here for you. Lena slapped her own arm again. There was another one. Or maybe the same one? Yuck! Olivia frowned. Well, let's definitely tell your nurse. Millie is coming tomorrow. I'll tell her to bring mosquito repellent. Lena nodded. Sounds good. How weird. Morgana's hand edged toward her pocket again. Please, 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 just let me. No, Olivia replied firmly. Ah, Morgana groaned. We need to head out, Olivia said to Lena. She laughed. Yeah, go. I'll be okay until Millie comes tomorrow. Lena's face fell a little and she sighed. Be careful out there, Olivia. Olivia nodded. Of course. We love you. The three of them hugged goodbye. Olivia noticed a small wooden box on the bedside table that wasn't there before. She picked it up and gave it to Morgana with a look, who put it back in her coat begrudgingly. Olivia and Morgana got outside the hospital and called a car to take them home together. As soon as they walked in the front door, Victoria grumbled loudly. You are definitely your father's daughter. This overtime work is going to drive you nuts. Mom, we're so hungry, Olivia said, changing the subject. Ooh, I'm really hungry too, Morgana chimed in eagerly. Victoria's face fell and her arms flopped down at her sides, exasperated. You two, are you not feeding yourselves when you're out either? She shook her head and spun around, muttering to herself as she entered the kitchen. I don't know what to do with all of you. Nobody in this house knows how to take care of their own bodies. Olivia and Morgana shared a grimace. Morgana whispered, I'm really excited for her cooking, though. Olivia nodded, whispering back, I didn't eat on purpose because I wanted her to feed me. Morgana high-fived her and they laughed. Olivia called out to Victoria, Thanks, Mom! And the two of them took off their coats and boots. Olivia noticed the sound of a fighting game coming from the living room. She entered it to find her dad, Michael, completely glued to a laptop screen. Olivia and Morgana watched him fight for a beat. Olivia was impressed. His technique had improved much, which made sense for how relentlessly he'd been playing. After a few moves, he won without taking any damage. Morgana noisily threw herself down on the couch across from him. Ah! He yelled, startled. Morgana! He spun to see Olivia as well. Olivia, wow, I did not hear you two come in. You're back. Olivia smirked. We are indeed back, Dad. He caught his breath and logged out of the game. Morgana leaned toward the screen, interested. Keep playing. I want to watch this game. Michael laughed appreciatively. I think you're the only person who won't insist that I log off whenever I'm playing and rejoice when I do. Morgana laughed. I like watching the games. It's not for you, it's for me. Michael nodded at her strange honesty. Olivia leaned against the fireplace mantel. You guys can play later. Dad, I have something to ask you about. Go ahead, he replied, putting his computer aside and leaning forward curiously. He looked more like the Michael she knew, thoughtfully in command of a business rather than absorbed in a fighting game every waking second. Did something bad happen? No, nothing like that. Olivia shook her head. More just strange. I wanted to ask you what the New York City Chamber of Commerce is all about in terms of our business. Have you attended any events put on by them before? Oh, interesting. He frowned. So you received their invitation? Yeah. Olivia felt worried. That sounds like you received it too? Michael nodded. I did. That's been a government department for a long, long time in the history of the city. But it's been more quiet since the Wall Street crash. Especially in recent years, nobody has mentioned it, and they certainly haven't been hosting anything. For a Chamber of Commerce banquet to suddenly pop into existence, it certainly does feel a little strange. Olivia set her jaw. It's sponsored by the Rose Company. Michael raised his eyebrows. Well, that is not good. Olivia thought for a moment. Dad, are you going? I don't think so, he said immediately. How about you? Olivia eyed him. I am going, but why aren't you? Michael sighed, then leaned back on the couch, rubbing his eyes. He crossed his arms. Since I'm running Confluence Technology and you're running the park company, there's the whole father and daughter are top figures in the business world thing. Olivia smiled, proud. Yes, that whole thing. Michael shot her a smile but returned to looking troubled. It would probably get us in the press if we were seen together at an event like this. And anybody who wants to write about us seems like they're going to include information about what's happened with Rachel and the rest of the Johnson family. I don't know, the idea of dredging all that up seems difficult right now. Olivia nodded. That makes sense, but I'm sorry, Dad. It's fine, he said, putting on a happier face. You know I can keep myself busy gaming at home. She laughed. That's definitely true. But Olivia... His face darkened. At this event, with the strangeness of it all, I need you to be careful. Olivia hated seeing him so worried for her. She nodded. I will.